The device would have to be traveling 135,000 miles per hour. It's basic math, correct?
While I agree with that,
You would agree that that is physically impossible, correct?
for a cell phone, yes.
The numbers that were being used in the calculation of the cell towers do not make sense.
As the supervising investigator, did you do anything to investigate the circumstances of that Ford Edge being placed in front of 34 Fairview sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning?
Yes.
What did you do?
The thing that could theoretically prove that I am not lying here today, sir, I didn't bring it. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up, It's the Law, the season finale of the cross-examination of Lieutenant, Detective, whatever you want to call him, Brian Tully in the Karen Reed murder trial in Massachusetts from June of 2024. This is the final segment, part 4, the finale of the cross-examination of Brian Tully. We're going to conclude the cross-examination, and then we're going to jump to a very, very brief recross by none other than Alan Jackson. Let's go, folks.
Can you do the calculation in your head?
No, sir.
Do you need a calculator?
I would.
Your Honor, if...
I'd like to see counsel at sidebar, please.
She went to law school. She know no
Do you
math.
have your cell phone with you?
She know math good. She judge.
Oh, you were going to ask the other question first with your numbers.
I can. Let me ask you, so you don't have to sit there with a cell phone in front of you, let me ask you if you would agree with this, that 0.15 divided by 0.004 is 37.5.
I'd have to write it out. I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
If you had a calculator in front of you, could you do it?
I could.
You don't have your cell phone with you.
I do not.
With the court's permission, I've got mine right here, I can turn it on, or my co-counsel has one.
How about, can you use Madam Court Reporter's cell phone and do that? She's closest.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Court Reporter.
Thank you, Your Honor. If you could divide...
I don't trust defense counsel's calculators and your phones, you and your fancy technology. We have our own. Thank you very much. She's closer. Oh my God, this woman.
0.15 by 0.00.
By the way, for the record, I have a video on the corruption of Beverly Cannoni. It has actually gone viral on my channel, so feel free to check it out. My editor is going to include a link to the description below. Oh yeah.
4. Let me know what you come up with.
37.5.
So that would be, given the fact that the distance, as calculated, as indicated on that record, the distance is 0.15 miles over the course of 0.004 seconds, right?
No, I would push back as to when the distance was being created. That's the first distance and last distance.
Correct. What you indicated was the cell phone or the device was on the first arc during the first time, and the start time, and on the second arc at the end time. All I'm asking is some basic math. So you would agree that if the calculation we just did, or you just did, is 0.15 miles divided by 4 thousandths of a second, that is 37.5 miles per second, to stay consistent, miles per second, correct?
Well, I don't agree with the premise of the question. So
You don't have to agree with the premise of the question. I'm asking you about the math.
Oh, the math is correct, yes.
The math is correct, right? It's miles per second, correct?
Yes.
Based on that calculation. In order to get to miles per minute, you multiply it by 60, correct?
Yes,
Can you do that for me, please?
Madam Clerk. The question again, sir, I'm sorry?
Yes. Multiplying 37.5 times 60 would give us miles per minute. What is that number?
2,250.
And if we wanted to go to miles per hour, which we're more familiar with, multiply it by 60 again, wouldn't you? And what's that number?
1,035,000. Excuse me, sorry. 135,000.
135,000 miles per hour, correct?
Yes.
That's
So
fast.
you would agree, if the premise is moving from the arc, the first arc, moving 0.15 miles to the second arc, over the course of 0.004 seconds, the device would have to be traveling 135,000 miles per hour, correct?
In your question, you said 1.5 miles travel. It's 0.15 miles. You corrected me. I'm going to throw it back at you, sir.
Fair enough, fair enough.
All right.
Okay. 0.15 miles over the course of 0.004
My head is spinning
seconds,
from all these numbers.
The device would have to be traveling 135,000 miles per hour. It's basic math, correct?
While I agree with that, I would push back. That's probably not what the record is indicating.
You would agree that that is physically impossible, correct?
For a cell phone, yes.
Right. And you would also agree that since that's impossible, you're not suggesting to this jury that the device moved from arc 1 to arc 2 in 4,000ths of a second. That can't be what you're suggesting.
I'm not suggesting that.
Okay. In fact, what actually makes more sense is that the signal was moving to and from the device at light speed, 186,000 miles per second.
It does. Radio
waves move at what?
speed of light.
Speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, right?
I know that a lot of you are confused right now. Forget the numbers. Just let me simplify it to you as if I'm talking to a 5-year-old. The numbers that were being used in the calculation of the cell towers do not make sense because the speed of light at which most of this stuff travels, as Alan Jackson has already indicated and Tully agreed, the numbers are so far apart that the numbers being talked about in evidence do not make sense. Realistically, they should be something else. But that's about as simple as I can describe it. Something is wrong here. We gotta fix it. Well, what is it, Jackson? Tell us. We're curious. We want to know.
Yes.
Okay. If, as you indicated on direct examination, if that return signal, the bounce, is in any way refracted, it takes a deviation. And it's not straight because of something like, I don't know, weather, precipitation, or snow, then it would take longer to get back to the antenna, correct?
That's fair.
And that could be what's reflected in that map and the distance of the two arcs. Isn't that correct?
That's not my experience with these records.
But you do agree that, in fact, the device, as you indicated earlier, moved from arc 1 to arc 2 from the start time to the end time. That's impossible.
No, I'm saying that the records reflect that the first time the distance was created, marked, and the second time the distance was marked, that's what's represented on the map.
Right, but you said that those are reflective of the start time and the end time, which is 4,000ths of a second apart.
No, I don't know that's when these distances were created. It doesn't say start of procedure distance. It says first distance, last distance.
And by the way, for the record, since this is YouTube and you guys can comment on this video, if you want to break it down, I will highlight your comment. If you want to break down the exact thought process, if you're like an engineer or a cell tower expert who can explain it even better than I can, because I don't know the exact origin of all this stuff because I'm not an engineer myself. I love numbers and I can crunch numbers and I can even crunch them in my head sometimes. But this is a little too technical for me, for my palate to be able to explain it. I try to do it in the simplest way possible, but if you can help our audience, I will love you forever. And I will highlight your comment and I will pin it to the top. So that way, if anybody has any questions and they're like, oh, for posterity, then they can just scroll down to the top comment and they will see the full explanation. So thank you in advance, kind stranger, for doing this for us.
It says, procedure start time, 5:18 and 19 seconds, 0.154, right?
Yes.
Procedure end time, 5:18, 19 seconds, 0.158, right?
Yes.
That's the difference. May I approach one more time?
Yes.
That's the difference. And that's the 4,000ths of a second difference, correct?
Yes.
And on direct examination, you said the start time and the end time are how you calculated the two different arcs,
No.
correct?
No.
Are you changing your testimony?
No. The map says first and last, as reflected in the record, first distance and last distance. So one could hold the map and this record next to each other and figure out how I determined those locations depicted on the map. It doesn't say start and end time. It says first and last.
Right. But you said that it was the beginning of the communication and the end of the communication, which are both reflected on that document, Lieutenant. The
Yes.
start time and the end time. I understand what you're saying about the distance. It's 0.15. Nobody's arguing about that. You said on direct examination that the distance was a difference between what time the first arc occurred and what time the second arc occurred, and there was a distance between it. And your testimony was the device moved from the first arc to the second arc. You just said it, right?
I'm saying the device moved from the first arc to the second arc, yes.
And it would be impossible to do that in 4,000 of a second, correct?
A cell phone, yes.
There it is. Okay, let's hear that one more time.
From the first arc to the second arc. You just said it, right?
I'm saying the device moved from the first arc to the second arc, yes.
And it would be impossible to do that in 4,000 of a second, correct?
A cell phone, yes.
It would be impossible for it to do in 4,000ths of a second. And for a cell phone, yes, that's the conclusion. This is all this buildup was to just get that one admission. Sometimes it takes a lot for an attorney to have to lay the foundation and lead you in. He could have just asked it, but then Lally would have objected, improper foundation laid. And you know what? He would be 100% correct. So we have had this discussion for like probably 15 minutes. We started in the part 3 of this video, and now in part 4, we're continuing it. And finally, we have that conclusion that we've all awaited. So there you have it.
One last issue, and I'm gonna deviate from the cell tower stuff. You got information during the course of your investigation that eyewitnesses, or an eyewitness, placed a Ford Edge in front of 34 Fairview in the early morning hours of January 29, 2022, correct?
I'm familiar with that.
As the supervising investigator, by the way, you were familiar with the fact that the eyewitness, placed that Ford Edge sorry, let's see if I can start that over. The eyewitness indicated that the Ford Edge was placed there sometime between 2:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the morning, correct?
I'm familiar with that.
All right. As the supervising investigator, did you do anything to investigate the circumstances of that Ford Edge being placed in front of 34 Fairview sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning?
Yes.
What did you do?
Well, we determined the veracity of that statement, and we want to make sure that the person who gave it is consistent and accurate and had a good vantage point of it. I have concerns about...
By the way, were you satisfied with that?
No.
Why not?
Well, the person has given the statement multiple times, and it appears to have changed over those times. It also appears that the person observed this vehicle from a distance, and also the identification of a Ford Edge seemed highly suggestive the way that I had read the account of it. If I had done that as a police officer, this court would throw out that identification.
So, did you find out anybody in the Albert family, for instance, on the Ford Edge?
I don't recall off the top of my head if somebody...
Did you look at automobile registration records?
I did not know.
Did you task anybody else to look at automobile registration records?
I believe Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Mechanic had investigated that.
And do you have any idea what that investigation revealed?
I don't.
Did the Alberts own a Ford Edge?
I don't know as I sit here.
They did own a Ford Edge, didn't they?
Objection.
So the objection sustained.
But nothing was done further that you're aware of to investigate the circumstances of that Ford Edge being seen and placed in front of 34 Fairview, right where the body was found, between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning, right?
An investigation into the reliability of that witness was conducted.
So you just decided, and that investigation, quotes, is, I didn't believe him, right?
No.
That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Lally, anything?
All right, so that was the cross-examination. We're not going to do the redirect. Nobody cares what Lally has to say. There are just a few more minutes remaining of the recross. Now, the recross is going to be juicy because Jackson is going to be ripping Tully apart on everything that he said on redirect. Like I said, we're skipping it. You're more than welcome to go to the trial channel. Shout out to you all. It is not sponsored by them or anything like that. I'm just giving credit where credit is due since I'm using their edits, and thank you all for that once again. And speaking of sponsors, this video is sponsored by my firm, Forman and Associates, your go-to place for car accident cases anywhere in the country. 1-844-774-HURT, H-U-R-T. It's at the bottom of the screen. Call it. Lawyers are standing by, trial lawyers, to get you the maximum compensation allowed under the law. Let's finish up the video, shall we?
Lieutenant Tully, you still have, I think it was 578, because you have 578.
I have 577.
Is
578 is not marked yet.
Oh, it's not? Where's the RTT record? Is that 577?
I have RTT records that are not marked in front of me.
May I approach?
Yes.
They're talking about evidence markings, in case you're wondering.
Move to admit.
And
allowed?
Objection.
Right. So let's mark it for identification, Milton.
Of course he's going to object.
I'm sorry, and that was letters.
Triple K.
Thank you. You're looking at triple Q, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. When you created the arcs on your map, you also put on the map 5:18 a.m., correct?
Yes,
Where'd you get that number?
from the procedure start and end time.
So you did use the procedure start time and end time, correct?
To denote the time, but not, to denote the time on the slide, yes.
Time of the event, correct?
Yes.
All right, so the 5:18-19, I'm sorry,
And
5:18.
by the way, for the record, the video glitching like that has nothing to do with anything. This was NBC 10 losing footage. Maybe a cell phone signal has been interrupting or anything, but we have clear audio. So please bear with us. I have no control over the video. It should stabilize itself in a few seconds. And we have 2 more minutes of testimony.
and 19 seconds.
There it
and
is.
then, I don't have it in front of me, but 0.154, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
That was the time that you used to establish that the device was on the first arc, correct?
No, I didn't use it to establish the arc. I used the distance to establish the arc, and I placed the time on the slide.
What time, Lieutenant Tully?
5:18.
The time that Verizon gave you as the start time, correct?
Yeah, they're both 5:18.
So there's a start time and a start distance from the tower. In other words, the event took place at this distance at this time starting, correct?
No, you're using
No?
the wrong words. It says first distance.
I'm not using the wrong words.
Yes, sir. You said start distance. It's first distance.
Okay, fine. Okay, pick the words. First distance. Start time and first distance, correct?
Yes.
Then
Those are on the record.
Right. Then Verizon gives you an end time, correct?
Yes.
He's a technical guy. I almost want to forgive him, but words you have to be careful with. But Jackson, again, is not an engineer. He's trying to get his point across. It's hard especially when you're in the heat of the moment, you're trying to get a point across, like first distance, start time, start distance, you're going to get it wrong. It's forgivable. But the way Tully is like clenching up is just so peculiar.
And last distance, right? And you created your arc based on the start time and first distance versus the end time and last distance, correct?
No. The time weren't associated.
If you're saying no is because that would require the device to travel at 135,000 miles an hour.
Objection. If the witness could please answer the question.
So let him finish.
Okay, sure.
And then the objection to that is sustained. You can ask it differently.
Go ahead.
The times were not part of the depiction of the range. While I will suggest to you that it is probably unbelievable that those are actually start and end times. What I'm saying is we don't know for certainty that that is the exact time, the first distance and the last distance. I'd have to look back at the records, but I also say that we have corroborating evidence to say that that is accurate.
So you'd have to look back at the records, correct?
Yes,
That is your record.
No,
That's what you looked at, isn't it?
the record's key.
And where's the record's key?
They were provided by Verizon.
Where are they, sir?
I don't have them in front of me.
Right. That's all.
No further questions. The thing that could theoretically prove that I am not lying here today, sir, I didn't bring it. Because if he had brought it, it would absolutely confirm that he is lying. That's why Jackson just left it at that. Now, the problem is, to be completely honest with you, I don't think the jury understood any of his testimony towards the end. So I don't know how much of that they actually got across, but who cares? Jackson did his job. He did the best that he could given the circumstances. Very difficult to simplify technical knowledge to a jury anyway. I think Ms. Little is their technical expert and their numbers expert, although I'm sure Jackson has enough experience with that as well. There you have it, folks. That is the conclusion of Lieutenant Detective Sergeant Master Commander Captain Tully. Next, we are going to dive into Allie McCabe. So join us. There are going to be at least a couple of episodes, possibly more. That is the testimony where you might see my face on camera because I was in the courtroom. So tune in and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.